something that I think a lot of our viewers watching, in fact, some of us, and Mary Lou, I can't wait to hear your thoughts, can relate to. So we're going to start today with something that might bring back some pretty difficult memories for a lot of you. We're talking about the draft. It's all because in Russia, Vladimir Putin announced that this week that 300,000 civilian reservists would be drafted to go serve in the war in Ukraine. Now, videos from the country show long lines of men waiting for planes and buses to take them to the front lines. There are also videos showing tearful wives and children saying goodbye as their relatives are taken away. For some, panic has set in, and there are long lines of cars at the borders with men of fighting age fleeing the country. Now, the announcement was also met with protests in the streets. There are even reports of Russians trying to avoid the draft with searches for, quote, how to break arm at home, trending after the announcement. Now, all of this has brought back some complicated memories. I've already read some of your stories about the draft here in America, which took place from 1948 until 1973. More than 2 million American men were drafted during Vietnam alone. Mary Lou, you're shaking your head.
Right.
Did you have anybody close to you during that time? What brings back memories for you?
Oh my gosh, I had so many boys from my neighborhood. My brother could have been drafted, but he had a student deferment because he had a very large number. My younger brother missed the draft because they had already changed it. But I have some crazy draft stories where a friend of mine went there. He said, there's no way I'm going. He went to his, induction, physical, et cetera, et cetera. He had to give a urine sample. He went to the guy, he put it down, he picked it up, and he drank it.
What?
And yes, he drank his own urine, and the guy said, you're crazy. You're obviously not going to be on a battlefield with a bunch of other soldiers.
Right.
And another friend of mine had his wife waiting at one end in case he was 1A and he was going to go to Canada. But he noticed as he was lining up the pattern for the hearing test. And he thought, I'm going to do a different pattern. And he did. And he flunked the hearing test. So 1A. I mean, 4F.
Wow.
That's what happened.
Jeff, I think of you, I want to hear about your dad, but I also think of you because
when people drink their own pee.
You're in good company.
That was pretty good. Trying to lighten it up.
No, I think of you because you are, in my opinion, someone that believes in his country, but you're also a devout father.
Right.
I think Jeff 7 years ago would have, maybe even volunteered if we were in a position like Ukraine is. But Jeff, now with 2 kids, what would you do?
I don't know. It almost seems like archaic in some sort of way to have a draft and force people to fight, right? It seems like that would never happen, but we do have to keep in the back of our mind that it could happen in some aspect. I just remember my dad telling me a story about when he was drafted. He was graduated at the time already, and obviously, I'm filling the blanks. I hope I'm telling the story right. But there was like maybe 100, 200 guys there, and everyone lined up, and they said, just get in a straight line. Everyone who graduated grammar school, take a step forward. Everyone who graduated high school, step forward. Everyone who graduated college, step forward. And he said he was one of like 5. And I would assume that every single person that didn't take a step went straight to Vietnam.
Correct.
And he was lucky enough that he was in a group of 5 and he got to do some intelligence for the war. But it's like...
It was very selective, and it really favored people who had more money, more education, and everything else.
That didn't get to go.
Yeah,
my dad went twice.
By then, my father-in-law, he was like in Saigon and everything else.
Right.
But, with the helicopter, that's what that meant.
Yeah.
Not a rodeo. And so the thing is that people really felt passionate about it, or they didn't.
Right.
And a lot of people felt like, especially the war in Vietnam, was ridiculous, which is what it sounds like a lot of these guys in Russia are
But then
feeling.
that's what the Vietnam soldiers had to deal with when they came home. I know my dad volunteered to go fight in Vietnam because, I imagine you would be. My dad wanted to be there for his country, and then he had to grapple with the fact that should I have even been there in the first place after holding his friend after friend after friend dying in his arms. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I can't imagine coming back after sacrificing your life, and then black soldiers coming back after sacrificing their life, being met with Jim Crow or being met with protesting people spitting in their faces after they sacrificed their lives for our freedom.
Right.
So there's lots of complicated memories for a lot of people.